It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Chaim Olmer. We're here in your beautiful home in Mill Hill in London. And Harry, you are 95 years young. You're incredible. You're still very active. You're going on the March of the Living. And you were from the very famous Windermere boys.
Yeah.
So if you could tell us a little bit about your family and where you grew up.
Yeah. Well, I'm filming. I was born in Sosnowiec, Silesia, very near the German border, southwest Poland, and we were obviously we grew up there as well until by age of 12 the war started.
And what do you know the date of your birth?
Pardon?
When you were born, you know the date?
The date? Yeah, 15th November 1927.
And how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had 4 sisters and 1 brother. I've got Golda with my older sister, and Sarah was the second sister, and then I had another sister called Pestel or Paula, and Adele was the youngest sister.
And did you grow up?
My brother was Joseph.
And where did you come in the family? Were you in the middle of the family, or?
I was number 4.
Number 4.
I've got 2 older sisters, then my brother, then myself, then 2 younger sisters.
And Harry, and your parents, were there many generations in Poland?
They were.
Were there many generations living in Poland, your parents?
My parents, of course, they lived in Poland, yes.
But your grandparents, were they also from Poland?
I only remember my grandmother, my father's mother. My father's father, my grandfather, he died very, very young. He had a burst appendix, and he died of peritonitis. So he was very young. So I didn't know him at all. I didn't know my mother's grandmother. I knew my mother's father because he was living after the war. He was living in Charsnica near Biachów, and I remember him, and I remember he died as well there. Yes, but my mother, she had Yitzhak, who was the father of the bride over there. She had who else was it? It's just an awful long time ago to remember it now. I remember her younger sister. She got married from just before the war, and Fagel, that's what Fagel as he called her, and so I remember her wedding as well, and she had my father's mother was a Rochulaye, and she was alive until the Holocaust as well. But my father had 2 brothers. One was called Moshe, and the younger brother was Beryl. And of course they were married, they had children as well, and of course they were all destroyed.
They were all killed. And can I just ask, when you grew up, did you grow up in a religious home?
Pardon?
Your home, was it a religious home?
A religious, well, be kosher. We used to go to synagogue perhaps on the weekend on Shabbos, but Everybody was kosher. In our towns or so, everybody was kosher. No problem, no question about it at all.
Did you go to a Jewish school?
I went to Jewish school.
A cheder, or it was
No, I went to Jewish school, a public school. And because we used to walk past the Pinchever Rebbe. The Pinchever Rebbe was living directly next to the school. And we used to see him actually sitting in his talis and tefillin as well. And he was sitting there all the time. And I remember when he died as well, when the Pinchever Rebbe, because all the Hasidim, the whole place came full with Hasidim to his funeral. And I remember because I followed it as well, because there was a Jewish hospital, and beyond the past Jewish hospital was the cemetery where he was buried. And as we were walking actually with the coffin to the cemetery, all of a sudden I started shouting, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. They just elected a new rabbi. So, yes. Yeah. So I remember that. Yeah.
And were most of your friends Jewish, or did you have any non-Jewish friends growing up?
Where?
In your town, where you were?
I'm sure I had some very good Jewish friends because we went to a Jewish school.
And any non-Jewish friends?
Pardon?
Any non-Jewish friends?
No.
Right.
The non-Jewish boys used to throw stones as well. And they said, Jews go to Palestine, Jews go to Palestine.
And you remember it?
Of course I remember it, of course. But I was nearly 12, you know. I remember the place was very, very anti-Semitic, terrible, because we were very near the German border. Now from our town, we could go into Germany on tramcars. It was really near. And when Hitler was talking, they had loudspeakers and put up through the town as well. To hear this is ranting as well, you know, absolutely terrible, dreadful. That anti-Semitism there was terrible, indescribable.
And this was before
Just before the war, yes, of course, yes.
And do you remember the speeches that Hitler, you could hear them with the loudspeakers?
Yeah, of course you could hear it now, because I could understand German. We could speak something German as well, because a lot of Germans used to live in our town. Because before the war it was part of Germany, before the First World War. And they have coal mines and steel works in our place, and they used to work actually in the coal mines as well. So there were lots of Germans. And then when the Germans came in, of course we weren't there actually, but the Germans came into the Soviets, because we left that war started on Friday in Poland, on 1st of September. And there were notices were pinned up throughout the town that men up to a certain age have got to go to an office to register to join the Polish army. It was Friday, so my father went to the office, towards the office as well. He got there, nobody was there, it was closed. So he came back home, maybe stayed over Shabbos, and on Sunday we thought the Germans were coming in straight away, because the Polish army was retreating from the front on Friday already, Friday and Saturday. And they did Friday. On Sunday, they're still not there. So my father decided we go to the station, go onto the train, and go to where my grandmother lived. My grandmother lived in Auschwitz as well, near Miechów. His two brothers were living there as well. So we went to the train, and after about half an hour's journey, two German planes came over the train and they bombed it. And fortunately we managed to get off unscathed. We had to make way on foot. We had to stay overnight on the farms as well. And my younger sister was just 6 or 7 years old. And that's how we managed to get near where my grandmother lived. And then the day before, now the Germans came in, my father decided we split the family. My mother, my brother, and my older sister, they went ahead to see if everything is all right where my grandmother lived. And then while they were away, a German platoon of soldiers came into the village where we were staying. And my father shot the Germans, my two young sisters, by the hand and started running away into the field. And the Germans started shooting at us, and myself as well. And then the soldier who was in charge of the small group of Germans started shouting to them, "Stop shooting!" It's a father and children running away. So we were very, very lucky. And we stayed over in the next village until the evening. Then we made our way to where my mother and my sister and my brother were, and that's where we're living. So we got there, and unfortunately, a German soldier was killed there. So they took one family, a father and two grown-up sons out, the Jewish men, and they shot them there and then, for no reason at all. They didn't even inquire whether they were responsible. I'm sure they were not responsible. And when we got there in the evening, you could still see the bodies lying actually. And that's where my grandmother lived in a semi-detached bungalow. She had half the bungalow, and the rabbi, local rabbi, was living in the half the bungalow with his family. And of course, there were 8 of us, but we had two. My father had 2 brothers as well. We managed to split the family, and we stayed there because that was before Rosh Hashanah. And so we stayed there until after Sukkot. And in the Sukkot we decided to go back to Sosnowiec, where the home was. And when we got there, the place was absolutely indescribable. Fortunately, our apartment was still intact. Nobody was living in there. But lots of Jewish people were thrown out their apartments, taken over by the Germans, the German population who were living in there. And of course, as soon as we got into our apartment, started Jewish people who were destitute, they had nothing, so moved into our apartment as well. And the only way how we could heat up our places before the war was with coal. There were plenty of coal in those days, of course, from the coal mines. But as soon as the Germans came in, all the coal that was mined locally was shipped back into Germany as well. We couldn't get any coal at all. It's a very severe winter, 1939, 40. Very severe. And we stayed there until just before Pesach. And then my father decided we leave Sosnowiec. We moved down to where my grandmother lived, and the rural areas, farms. My uncles, they knew the farmers as well, so it was all right. And of course, if we could have survived the war if the Holocaust wouldn't have started. So we stayed there until 1942, and that's when the Holocaust started. Yes.
And what happened in 1942?
In 1942, again, notices were pinned up throughout the town that all the Jewish families, have got to go to certain assembly points in the town, and you can take whatever food you had with you, and you'd have to take one suitcase with you as well. and go to the assembly point. And we were living there. I've got a video as well. There were lots of houses, like a big square. The houses were round square, and in the middle of the big square was a well. We had to go down to the well to get water, and there were outside toilets as well. And as we were just getting ready to go to the assembly point, a German soldier came into the square, and we were just getting ready to go, so we were waiting to see whether he's leaving, whether he left or not. And directly opposite us was an older man with his wife, no children, and his wife was blind. So he went to the well to get a bucket of water to take it back to his place. And the German soldier was eating an apple at the time, got his gun out and he shot him there and then. And then we could see what's happening then. So we made our way out of our house down to the assembly point.
And did you witnessed it? You saw him killing the...
I saw it too, yes. Yeah. And then we got to the assembly points, of course, and then there was the selections already. All the men, the women and the children were behind, but men were selected. One of my uncles was taken away as well. The rabbi was taken away as well, and lots of people were taken away, put onto the trucks, and to draw them away towards the forest. And and as then all the other people who were on the assembly point were loaded on the trucks, and we moved in the same direction as the people, the men who were taken away. And when we were driving past the forest, we could hear a lot of shooting going on. And one of the women's now truck, we started crying and screaming. We stopped the truck, pulled the woman down, shot her just to calm everybody down, and we continued driving towards Krakow. We arrived in Stomniki, that's where my mother's family came from, and the truck stopped there, and we could see Polish people digging trenches right around the field. We were the first ones to arrive near that field. There was a railway line as well there, and we really thought it's our end is going to come as well. But gradually more and more people kept arriving to the field, and the trenches were built was just for latrines, one side for men, the other side for women. And we stayed there for 4 days. All the food that we managed to get with us went moldy because it was damp. And after 4 days, the trucks arrived, the trains arrived. All the women and all the children, we could take the suitcases, nothing, not take anything at all, headed into the wagons. And then the wagons were waited actually, all the women and children were waiting in the wagons with a boiling hot day as well. And then there was a selection of the men. And we had to walk past the assessment, show the palms of our hands to see we've got calluses on it from working hard. Because until 1942 we had very hard labour as well. So people, my father, my brother, myself, put to one side as well to get a lot of other people as well. And other people, they thought they're not fit enough to go to work. So I pushed them together into the wagons together with the women and the children. The train moved away, another train came, and we were loaded at house, and we went to Plaszow. We got to Plaszow. My father, his younger brother was left by the Germans to clear out the Jewish homes. So he was there. That's what somebody was there. So he ran away. The following day, he ran away from the camp from Plaszow. July 1, not to be Plaszow here. And we were working then, building a railway line. And so he ran away because my younger sister, Pestle, she was in hospital at the time. She had very bad ear infection, but so he wanted to know what happened to her. So he went back to the hospital in Miechov, and she was still there. So they took her out of the hospital. She was getting better, and went back to where his younger brother lived, working for the Germans then. And then my brother ran away the following day, and it was a bit chaotic at the time, you know. So, and then after Yom Kippur, my father sent a Polish man with a small truck and told them where to go wait for me coming back from work. And I was walking back with all the other people who were from work, and he called my name out, and I looked around because he didn't know me, and he came over to me, took my hand, and we walked away. So my father, they went back down to see my father and my sisters. They went back there, and we stayed there, and only for one week after on Hoshana Rabbah. Last day of my father was Hoshana Rabbah in 1942. And we were rounded up as well because there were a lot of people were running away from the camps. They were rounded up, and they took and we were put into a small jail, my brother and myself and lots of other people as well. Then in the morning I was sent back to Plaszow, but it was my brother was sent back there. So I didn't see my brother until after the war. And that's how we spent now nearly a year living in Plaszow, July 1, and working. I had the typhus there as well, but an incident I'm sure people would like to know is because when I tell the people in Israel that we had a religious service in Plaszow, you couldn't believe it, but we did. People from Krakow, because Krakow was very near Plaszow, they didn't put the trains. They walked from Krakow after the ghetto was liquidated, and walked into Plaszow. So they carried the suitcases, and they had some money as well with them. Some they had the talisman film as well. And there was a young man. I was lying next to him because we didn't have bunk beds, we had just platforms. And I was lying next to him, and he was hustling and bought the big shoes in Krakow. And he was also a member of the Opera House Krakow as well. He had a fantastic voice. And then the man who had some money, naturally, they went over to speak to Miller, was a camp commander in Jörg 1, and bribed him. He got some money, and they asked him whether he could have the college service, a service on the Arab Yom Kippur. And he said yes. So I pushed the banks close together, get as many people in as possible. And the Germans were standing outside to listen to the hustle, the college service. Yes.
And you remember the service?
I was there, yes.
It was Kol Nidre.
Kol Nidre night, yes.
Inside Plaszow, inside.
Plaszow, you like one, yes.
And the Germans allowed it?
Pardon?
The Germans allowed it? You could do the whole...
We knew he's taking bribes. He knew he was... yes. Eventually he was caught as well, because that he found out, somebody found out as well, because Miller, who was a camp commander there, he used to have very good relationship with Schindler, because Schindler had a factory in Krakow. And one of the Jewish boys, a friend of mine actually, he used to live in Middle Hill as well. He survived the war. And he was this putz boy, who was running from place to place to get the uniform cleaned and pressed, and the boots had to be cleaned as well. So he used to do it. He used to run to Krakow to Schindler, and he used to bring lots of things as well. So he used to work for them. And eventually they found out that he was bribing, that he was sent to the Russian front, Miller, but he did survive the war as well, and he asked that his name was what's his name? They lived around the corner from here. Can't remember that. He'll come back to me in a minute here. But he asked to give a reference to the authorities in after the war to tell whether he would a favourable reference, but he didn't want to do it either. No. So.
And who took over from Miller?
He didn't take over. No.
No, but who after was the new commander?
No, because now the camp closed after 1 year. The camp, the Ulag one closed 1 year, and we were sent to the most terrible, dreadful place. It's Gazisko Kamienda. It was ammunition factory. It was in the middle of Poland, near Radom, and there were 3 factories there, A, B and C. I was on a truck. We just got to factory C. The gates were still closed. It was the evening, and the first thing we felt as we got near there, everything in my mouth was bitter. It was terrible, terrible. All the lights were yellow, all the people yellow, everything was yellow there. And we got there, and I was put into a hut. Some young people were there in the place, and I got there and I said, "What's the terrible smell here? Unbelievable! Just couldn't believe it." And they pointed out a big box standing next to the washroom, and said that the people who die in that week, they put the dead bodies in there. And once a week the truck comes to collect the dead bodies to take them away. So you can't believe it. And there no washing facilities for anything at all. The only thing was like a trough, like how the horses used to drink there, and used to have taps attached to the troughs there. I think that's the only hot water we met. Nothing at all. No washing facilities at all. And of course, you had to go and work filling up the mines with picric acid, picrine. And the survival rate for people who were working on them was about 6 weeks. After 6 weeks they were dead. But there were lots of Jewish people still in the camps as well. So I managed to get new people from the camps to replace the people who died. And I was put to work there as well. And again, it's a miracle that I survived. Because again, we used to shift 1 week, day shifts, 1 week, night shifts. And I was on on the day shift, so the night was supposed to sleep and go for work, and then everybody was woken up in the middle of the night because of the very heavy snowfall, and the trains couldn't get through the empty shells, so we had to go into the forest where there were warehouses, and in there the empty shells. So we had to carry the empty shells down to the factory, and it was absolutely impossible to what was like that night. Absolutely terrible, dreadful. The number of people were dead. The following day, they didn't even count the people who had to go back to the work. So I attached myself to a transport company, and they let me stay there. And if I had stayed, gone back to the Pickering, I wouldn't have survived. So, but the food was impossible to describe it. It was the worst camp. Even people who were in Scottisco, work A or work B, when you tell them you come from Boxseed, they look at you as though a miracle that you survived. It really was terrible. And about food, we used to get a lump of bread at night when you got back from work, and had to last you for 24 hours. But the food was not made with flour. It's flour made with sawdust, mixed with flour with melted sawdust, and it made the head lumpy and heavier. Cabbage soup every night. That's the only food we have. It's absolutely terrible, really dreadful. We still wore our clothing, the same clothing as we came back from home as well. The shoes were completely threadbare, the clothes as well. Infected with the lice and the bed bugs. It was absolutely, it just can't imagine what it was like. And then we could see the Russian army approaching towards it, and to get the cannon fire was coming closer and closer, and we thought we would be the Russians would come in, be safe then, but the Russian offensive stopped just outside Warsaw, and of course we went down somewhere else then. So they evacuated half the camp, and I remained in the other half the camp, and still they're working on the Panzerfaust, on the ammunition. And eventually they closed the other part camp, and I was sent to Buchenwald. And when we got to Buchenwald, the administration in Buchenwald was by the German prisoners, either political prisoners or criminals. Unfortunately, the young boys, were sent to the political prisoners. We could recognize them, but he had a red triangle, the person, and the other had green ones. And we were treated very, very well. It was absolutely like a holiday camp. It really was. Buchenwald, we tell people Buchenwald. It's like if you describe Rabbi Lau, of course he was in Buchenwald as well, but he was a young boy, he was young. But if I were to tell anybody, Buchenwald for me was a holiday camp. But after 2 weeks, the same company were working for the munitions factory in Skarżysko, came back to Buchenwald, and all the people who used to work for them had to take them back, go to another munitions factory in Schlieben, and different munitions then. They're building Panzerfaust. It's like a bazooka with a bomb attached to the tubes as well, and pure defensive. The people had to go to the tank after about 60 meters back before they can destroy the tank. and it was really lethal. And so that's the kind of work you did. And but later on, of course, it was 1944. The Germans, they knew the war wasn't going in their way, and overnight the British planes were flying overhead on their bombing missions, and Schlieben was about equidistant from Berlin, Leipzig, and Dresden. So whenever the cities were being bombed, the sky was red hot, so you could see it. And of course we couldn't work the night because it had light had to be turned out, so it was much easier then. And unfortunately one day the factory blew up. Didn't know why, because no planes were flying overhead at the time. But it was a sabotage, or it was an accident. But the whole factory, everybody, I was fortunately again, I was on day shift, so the factory blew up at night, and all of those people who were working in the factory then they were killed. And but it was even the town, the Schlieben, was destroyed very badly as well. I just can't imagine actually. The barbed wire around the camp was ripped apart as well. And they managed to run out of the barracks because they were being destroyed as well because of the explosions. And got into a field and we thought it would be potato cities, but there were no potatoes. There was just sugar beet at the time, so you couldn't even get potatoes. And in the morning we had to go get back to work, and then the work started terrible, dreadful. It wasn't the German SS men who were supervising us. It was Ukrainian and Latvian SS men. And they were the most cruel, possibly people you can imagine. Unbelievable. It's unbelievably cruel. And after a week, after 2 weeks, they cleared the site, they poured the concrete slab as well, put the new boilers on each, the 4 boilers in each corner, 1 boiler in each corner, and started working again, filling the bombs with the explosives. And in the house, there were two boys, at each boiler, with taps opened up. We used to fill in the bombs with explosives, and then people carried away and when the explosives actually hardened to clean up, and that's the type we used to work 12-hour shifts, morning and night. Yes. But again, eventually the camp was closed. First for half camp, then I was in the second half. The camp was closed, got into trains, open wagons, and we try and move backwards and forwards. Whenever you could find some railway lines which are not damaged by the planes, so he used to move on. And eventually, after 2 weeks, I arrived at Theresienstadt in Czechoslovakia. And I found the other boy who was evacuated from the camp 2 weeks earlier, and he was sitting on the ground, and of course he was starving. And I got into a wagon while the train was still moving, and it was a place full of oats. So I tied my trousers, stuffed the oats down into my trousers, and got into Theresienstadt. We made a small fire, and everybody had a tin plate. So we roasted those oats, and we ate the kernels of those. And but then I was sent up to another. Then I remembered the Red Cross took over the camp. The Red Cross flags were flying right around the camp. The Germans left the camp, and it was just outside the camp, and there was just put pot shots into the people there. But I was getting it very, very, very ill. And the last day of the war, 8th of May 1945, we were liberated by the Russians.
And you remember the Russians coming into the camp?
Russian tanks actually breaking through the gate, yes. And all the other boys who were fit enough ran onto the main road. And I was getting terrible. I was very ill by then. So I managed to get up to the road, and I went go back to Mum into the camp. And I don't remember anything at all that happened to me. I was very, very, very ill. I couldn't talk. My whole body was in spasms as well. Nobody knew what it was. I'm sure if the war would have lasted another day, I wouldn't have survived either. Nobody would come looking for me. Oh, I'd take me to a makeshift hospital. And I was lying there, still couldn't talk. My body, they must have been feeding in somehow, but I can't remember it. And then the friend of mine who came looking for me, because I knew that he was in Registrat as well, and he walked into that makeshift hospital, and he found me, and he sat down next to my bed, and then a nurse came over to him. I still couldn't talk, and she asked him what was my name, and he told her, and she bent over me, and she said, "Ask me, have you got a sister called Sarah?" And I shook my head. And she said, "I'm sure she's alive." She said, "I was with her until 6 weeks before the end of the war in Austria, in that camp. And I'm sure she's alive." And maybe the despair to get me better. And eventually I got better. And then she came in and she said, "You know, all the young boys from here, from today's start, the British government has given permission for 1,000 orphans to go to England, and that anybody wanted to go to England. We had no connection with England anyway, and didn't want to go back to Poland, never. But and she said, "Well, your name is not on the list." He couldn't talk, so your name is not on the list. And then she came in again. And she said, a few days later, she said, "You know, one of the boys who was on the list, he found that his father was alive in Poland, so he went back to Poland." He says, "You'll go on his name to England." And that's how I did. I came not as Chaim Olmer, I came as Ephraim Mintzberg. And that's how I arrived here in England. And they called that Ephraim Mintzberg, and I started shouting, "No, I'm Chaim Olmer, Chaim Olmer." Did you see the film there? Did you probably see it? Yeah, didn't you? And first of all, they thought I was a stowaway, but anyway, they managed to persuade them I wasn't a stowaway. And we had the last group from Windermere to be sent, because 27 boys needed more recuperation, so myself included, we were sent up to Scotland, and again a beautiful place there in Scotland, absolutely magnificent place, and had a big manor house and beautiful grounds as well, and of course because you need more recuperation, you got extra rations as well, So it was a beautiful place, beautiful.
And was this Windermere?
That was, no, Windermere was before. From Windermere we went up to Scotland.
But so you were in Windermere, is in part of England, and how long were you in Windermere?
I was in Windermere, of course. It was we were becoming human again. Windermere was a place for becoming normal.
And how long did you stay in Windermere?
I stayed in Windermere from the 14th of August 1945 until about October, about 3 months in Windermere. And met some people, they were very good. I became very good friends as well, but all the boys who came to England, of course. Over 300 boys came. The 300 boys in Windermere were separated into about groups of 20, 30 people, sent to various hostels. And of course, when we came to England, everybody had to be 15-year-olds, because the British government insisted that nobody over the age of 15 can come to England. But there was nobody younger than that. So everyone who was 60, some were even 20, over 20s, came over to England as 15-year-olds.
And how old were you when you came?
I was nearly 17.
You were nearly 17?
Yes. And of course, the people who came to, because we flew into a place near the Lake District. First of all, the planes couldn't come to Prague because the weather over Europe was very bad. So we stayed in Prague for 4 days, and from Prague we came over to England, and the people who were prepared clothes for us, for 15-year-old boys. So we had the clothes to wear for the first night. We had to wear underwear all the time. That's all. It was only for 1 day.
So can I ask, how did you come from Prague? How did you get to England from Prague? Did you go on the trains from Prague? How did you get from Prague to England?
To England by plane.
From Prague, but from Prague.
But by plane.
From Prague you went by plane to England?
That's right, yes. And took the plane, I think 5 or 6 bombers, and we're sitting on the ground, on the floor, of course, and the planes, they had no food at the time, but the planes stopped in Holland, and we got some foods then, and go to the toilet as well, and then from there we flew to near the Lake District, yes.
And did you have friends with you?
Pardon?
Did you make friends, or did you have friends with you at this time?
Of course we had all the people, actually for the first 3 months, there's 300 boys there.
But before you came to Windermere?
No, I didn't. I knew a few, but once it got better, when I started talking already, so I was much better. Yeah, it was all right then. Then of course make some friends as well. But when we came to Windermere, of course everybody was in the same boat, you know. And I've got Simcha Lieberman. He was a rabbi. Have you heard of him? You have. We're talking with him all the time. Actually, we're walking and talking what we want to do, what we want to do, what we want to do, what kind of life we're going to have. I've still got a siddur I got from I got a pair of trillim as well, Windermere. And the trillim I gave away to somebody who was in our shul in Mill Hill. I said, why did you come to the shul? He said, I haven't got trillim, so I gave him the trillim we gave away. But the siddur I've still got from Windermere.
And it must have been a very special...
It was very...
The people were good to you?
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic, it really was. It was really fantastic. We started learning English as well, used to tell. And but the main thing actually, we started learning to be human as well. And we were living, of course, Windermere. There were huts. They were occupied by British workers. They were assembling flying boats on Lake Windermere. So that's the type of work they did there. But after the war, of course, the war was over in Europe, and so we occupied the camps, and so it was walking, swimming, learning as well. And Simcha Lieberman always said, because we had a rabbi, what's his name? I can't remember now.
So this is the siddur that was given to you in Windermere by the Rabbi Mordechai Glyn HaKohen, and it says Chaim Olmer, and this siddur was printed in Germany.
That's right. I think 1931, because the date it was printed. Berlin.
Printed in Germany. And you've kept the siddur ever since. It's so special. And it's so special that you gave the tefillin to one of the members of the shul.
I know.
That's very special.
No problem. Both pair of film, more than one pair of film, of course, but it's.
And Chaim, the friends that you made at Windermere.
Pardon?
The friends that you made at Windermere, the boys that and there were also some girls.
Well, first of all, when I said in 1945 when we came here, we could not. In 1946 we left from Cardross. We were in a hostel in Cardross in Scotland. We went to a place for recuperation.
How long were you there?
For 1 year again.
1 year.
Yes. And some people, some boys, they had to go. They went to had TB, so they sent them to the sanatorium. And but now I was there for a year. Then after a year, we sent to a hostel in Glasgow. And Glasgow hostel was completely different. It was overcrowded, 7 boys in a room. Glasgow was bombed as well during the war. But fortunately, there was a library next to the hostel and a cinema across the road. So we could read, move, even lose each other as well if we wanted to. They could spend time and they used to go to shul as well on Shabbos as well. We used to go to, but obviously 1940, that was 1946. We had to choose what kind of work you want to do. So I decided I should go become a dental technician. But when I started working as a dental technician, I had the evening classes every night. I would go to evening classes. And I used to go there after work. I used to learn to become a dental technician. And I used to work as well during the day in direct, but I was working at Dr. Levine's surgery. Dr. Levine's surgery, and he was a doctor in Glasgow, and he wasn't teaching me because he didn't have a dental technician working there for him yet, because he managed to get a release of the technician who was in the army, the British army. And so I was working later on. He was showing me how to work, and I used to go down to the library at lunchtime as well. Every lunchtime, they kept the books for me, because the reference library, they kept books for me. I knew I was coming there, so I used to. And that was in 1946. 1945 I came to England. 1946 started evening classes and learning it. And 2 years later I took my first examinations what are called, in Scotland they call it the lowers, here they call it GCSE. And 1 year later I took my highers, like A levels. In Scotland it's called highers, and I managed to pass them. So I applied to go to university in 1948, and this is 2 years this year, come back next year. But because you apply to university before you get the results of the exams, and I didn't know. I waited till I got exams, and so I came down to London, and the same thing as well, to come back next year. But when I got back to Scotland, after I was here in London, and found a letter from the Glasgow University, I should come for an interview. So got an interview. They said we can take you in 1948, but you've got to give us an undertaking that when you become a British subject, because you've got to be 5 years in the country before you become a British subject, and if and when you pass the exams, you'll have to go to the British Army. The Army needs dentists. But I gave it an undertaking, of course, as well. I got no identity, so that's what I did. And then in 1953 I passed my exams. I got, and then the first thing I wanted to do, because my sister, who survived the war, Sarah, she went back to Poland. And she got married there. Soon afterwards, when she got back to Poland, and she got married, and her husband managed to get this factory they had before the war in Poland, making soft drinks, and that's what used to open up the factory again, and so that's where it stayed from 1945 until 1950. In 1950 the factory was taken away by the communists. They went to Israel. So of course I was in touch with my sister then, and so the dean of the dental school called me in after they found the results. He says, I got a request from Bristol University to send us a graduate to do some more postgraduate work there, and we would like to recommend you to come there. And I thanked him, and I said, thank you very much indeed, but I'm afraid I can't accept it. I can't accept, because my sister survived the war. It's the first time I told anybody about it was in university that I was a Holocaust survivor. And I told them, my sister survived the war, and I haven't seen her since 1941. So and I said, she's living in Israel now, and I would like to go and visit her first. And that's what I did. I was working from the 4th of July. That's what I graduated on the 4th of July 1953. And was working as a dentist in Reading, and I was managed to earn enough money to make my way to Israel. So made my way to I was on a ship from Marseille. I had to go back to Marseille from London, and in Marseille got on a ship called the Negba. It was a terrible ship, unbelievable ship, terrible, dreadful. And we arrived out at Haifa on Erev Yom Kippur. So, and it was a terrible storm on Erev Yom Kippur, absolutely terrible storm. So we couldn't eat anything Erev Yom Kippur, we couldn't eat anything either, because the ship couldn't unload the people, was Yom Tov. So we waited until until Israel got on the second out of which after Yom Kippur, we got off the ship and made my way to see my sister. And she had three children by then. And she was living in a terrible place, of course, in Barbarot, you know. But they were safe. So sort of.
And how was the encounter when you first saw your sister? It must have been very emotional.
No, we used to write to each other, of course, in Poland as well.
But when you first saw her,
of course.
it must have been.
Yeah.
And she's the only one that survived of the family?
Yeah, of course, yes. She's the only one. She's my older sister. She survived. And then she told me, of course, when she was still in Poland, that my brother, who was in a DP camp in Germany, and he was on the Haganah, or they were taking Jewish people down to go to Palestine in 1948. Not before 1940, when the war started to finish it in 1945. So he was on his way down to Palestine, and the British intercepted the trucks as well and sent everybody back into the DP camps. So he went back to Poland, and he found my sister, and he got there the day before her marriage, before her wedding. Yes. But again, he stayed there for only about 2 or 3 months. He didn't want to stay in Poland.
And what happened to your brother?
Well, he went back to the DP camp in Germany, and he stayed in the DP camp until he got married. He got married in Poland, actually. They went together to went out to the DP camp, and then they went to America. So he lived in America.
And when did you see your brother?
I didn't see my brother, because I was in touch with him, of course, as well, until 19. He came to see me. He went to Israel to see my sister as well before, and on his way back from Israel, stopped in London, and he stayed with me for 2 weeks. Yes, and then he went back to Baghdad.
And when you saw your brother as well, it must have been
That's right.
incredible, very emotional.
Yeah.
So, Chaim, out of your family, who survived out of your family?
Yes, the 3 of us.
Just the 3 of you, your brother and your sister and you?
That's right.
And is your brother still alive?
No, he died 6, 7 years ago.
And your sister?
No, well, he wasn't very well. He's, I don't know, I think they messed up his operation as well, because apparently, because his wife died beforehand. And I went down to America, so because he had a cataract operations done, so he couldn't drive. So I was there, and I was driving back to the doctors and to the hospitals as well, and to the place. He sold the house and got into a beautiful, beautiful place, a Jewish place as well, with lots of Jewish people living there. And he complained one day that he got short of breath, so the doctor sent him straight away to the hospital and did a heart bypass operation. And they messed up the veins actually from the leg, the veins out and those transplant, and he's never recovered since then.
And your sister?
Oh, my sister, she was in Israel, of course, and she stayed in Israel. Still Kvarata, now it's called Kiryat. Yes, so she stayed there all the time, and her husband, he opened up. He got some land, and he had a lull, chickens. Lots, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chickens in the loom. And he had 3 shochten there staan, ja. Especially for Yom Kippur, so for the Kippuras. Yeah, don't do it here, but to do it there and still do it. Yeah, so, and so he was all right.
And is your sister still alive?
No, sister died 6 years ago. Yes. Yeah. But she was 91 when she died, and she had 3 children, and they had 10 grandchildren, and thank God she had great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren as well now. So I've got a large family now. And I was told my niece in Israel, it's her granddaughter is getting married on 1st of Hanukkah. So I've got to get married. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And can I just ask, when you were in Plaszow, did you ever see Schindler? When you were in Plaszow?
I'm not a Schindler, no. I never saw Schindler. Schindler was in the Krakow.
But did you ever see him?
No.
Yeah. And Arman Gut, the commander of Plaszow?
Pardon?
Arman Gut. Did you ever see
Who?
Gut?
No, because that was the main camp, not Gulag 1. I was in Gulag 1.
And did you ever go to the main camp?
No.
They were separate?
Separate camp. Directly opposite the camp. Up Plaszow, Gulag 1 was on, opposite the road was they were building, and they were building across the camp on the best quarters, because the cemetery there, cleared the place up. It was terraces, the whole place there, where the camp was built. But I didn't see it, no.
And when you go on the March of the Living, and you're going to be
I'm
going
going again after Pesach.
Where do you go on the March of the Living?
Well, and sister go to Belgium. That's why my family was destroyed. Every year go to Belgium. This year they were planning not to go to Belgium, but now they're relented to get 2 coaches for going down to Belgium as well.
And is it very difficult to go back?
Pardon?
It must be very difficult to go back to
very
Poland.
Difficult actually as well. But it's rebuilt now, of course. It's a beautiful place now, a beautiful place. At least the forensic archaeologists were sent by the Americans and the Polish people as well. They identified 31 mass graves there. And so they made sure, because when we were there first time in 1990, we got back to Poland in 1990 for the first time. My 2 sons and my son's wife, daughter-in-law, we got there, and the Poles came by car. Well, they had a driver as well. The driver asked them where the camp is, and they wouldn't tell us. They really wouldn't tell us. So we drove back into the town, and I told the driver, follow this railway line. It was this huge railway line. I said, follow this railway line. We followed that railway line, and it took us into the camp. And we got to the camp there was absolutely nothing. Dogs were running around, digging up bones, you know. Terrible, dreadful. And but then they rebuilt the camp a few years later, and they made the quorum safe as well. Have you ever been to? You have been to discussion to Belgium. Yes, very near Ukrainian border, and so they made the quorum safe as well, and they made a walkway and got to build a wall as well where the crematorium were, and we usually make our way down there towards the wall, and we have a service where we just go and take Kaddish there, light the candles there.
And how many times have you gone back?
This is my 6th year.
The 6th year.
Yeah.
And who comes with you on the March of the Living? Who comes with you on the March of the Living?
That's right.
Are there many people from England?
How many people?
Are there most of the people that come with you are from England?
But this year we got 2 coaches. There must be about 80 people.
And are they from all over the world or mainly from England?
Pardon?
Mainly from England or from all over?
No, all the people are from England. But other people go before the war in Ukraine, of course. Lots of Americans used to go to Ukraine as well. And they came across the border into Poland, to Belgrade. They used to come there as well.
And can I ask, when you were at university, you never told anybody that you were a survivor?
No. They knew I was Polish.
And they knew you were Jewish?
Pardon?
Did they know you were Jewish?
They definitely knew I was Jewish. Because, you know, the dental school in Glasgow was on a hill. And there were 2 synagogues, one level half higher up. And I used to go to lectures, but on Shavuos and Christmas, they used to go to the synagogue there just to say Kaddish there. But they knew I was Jewish, yes. But they knew, at least the lecturer knew I was Jewish. My name is Chaim. And we had a lecture on acetone once, very level. And he said, acetone was synthesized by a scientist from Manchester. And his name was, he looked up, I was sitting in the back there, and everybody else followed my gaze as well. His name was Chaim Weizmann. Normally, the scientists actually give the discoveries free of charge. The Chaim Weizmann, he's now the president of the state of Israel.
You must have been very proud.
Who I was. The way he looked up, the way he said, the wrong, he thought that Chaim Weizmann was giving something actually for himself, but
Sure.
let's show my name is Chaim all the time.
Sure. And Chaim, did you tell your children when they were growing up about that you were a survivor? Did they know?
Of course.
You told them from the beginning?
Because I had terrible nightmares, even afterwards. Dreadful nightmares. I used to, sometimes, as long as they didn't wake me up, because I got over the nightmare, I'd go back to bed. In the morning I didn't remember anything at all. Except once when I was in Windermere. When I was in Windermere, I had a nightmare there as well. And I was in a block with the Friedman. He was the company, the Jewish company, and he had a room directly opposite mine. And then we had a nightmare. He came rushing in, and he woke me up. And he said, "Can you tell me what you dreamt?" And that's the only dream I remember, because he woke me up. I wouldn't have remembered it either. And I told him, I said, I remember standing facing my mother. She not talking about one another, just looking at each other. And there's a wall being built, and the wall's getting higher and higher and higher. I said, stop seeing my mother. And that's where I died. That's the only nightmare I remember, because he woke me up.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And Chaim, if I can ask you, what message do you give your children? And what message What message do you give your children and grandchildren and for the future generations?
Got to remember it. The same, we went last year, went to Berlin, and we went to Wannsee as well, the conference of Wannsee. And when we got there, it was absolutely horrendous as well. We go to the Wannsee, where the conference was held, in the villas, and they brought their wives to the villa while the men actually deciding how to get rid of the Jewish people.
That was the final solution. That's where they...
It was absolutely horrendous, terrible. And we went to Brandenburg Gate. We saw the Jewish museums, a fantastic Jewish museum there in Berlin, absolutely fantastic. And I was coaching back to England as well, and I said on the Brandenburg Gate, I think there was an enormous big sign there, Zachor.
To remember.
Remember.
And Chaim, you married your wife who was a kindertransport.
She was 8 years old, yes.
And she came...
but I think she's a problem there, so not problem, but the British people, because she was her parents were on a boat. They managed to get down on a riverboat from Vienna down to the Black Sea. And on the Black Sea, a lot of Jewish people were waiting there as well, and they got on a ship, and the ship was taking them to Palestine. It was in 1941. In 1941, of course, the British would allow Jewish people to get into Palestine. And so her parents, the British intercepted the ship, and the Haganah messed up they tried to disable the ship. The explosives they put under the ship was too big, and 300 people were actually on the ship were killed. Fortunately, her parents got off the ship, and Atlit, the Atlit?
It's a camp, yeah.
That's where the camp is. The concentration camp was there, but set up by the British. They weren't allowed to, because my wife had people who got from Vienna as well, and they were at Kibbutz Chanita, up near the Lebanese border. And she had her sisters, her family there. They would allow anybody to get in touch with it. Absolutely nobody. They brought another ship. The British loaded all the people from the Atlit and took them all the way down to where is it? In an island. What's it called? Near the South African
Mauritius. They were sent to Mauritius.
Sent to Mauritius. All the men were put into jail, and the women were in tents outside. And her mother died there. There were over there in Mauritius. There were over 170 Jewish graves there as well. Their father managed to survive the war, and he was went back to Palestine. He was sent back to Palestine then. And from Palestine came to England, because my wife, her older sister, she came to England as well. She was 16 years old, and so he came to England, and he died here with a big smoke, where we had a smoke here, 1951, that's right. He died there.
Sure, Chaim, you have lived through momentous moments. You've witnessed history. It's incredible what you've gone through.
I remember history right now. I remember when the United Nations were voting actually to partition Palestine. I remember that. I remember everything. People, I was in 1948, a lot of people were hostile from the people who came to England as well, wanted to go. One of them, a very good friend actually, every time he was a dental technician, he opened up a dental technician, he was a fantastic dental technician in Tel Aviv. And his now son is taken, he died a few months ago, Menachem Silberstein. Yeah.
And Chaim, with all what you went through, did you always have emunah? Did you always have your faith? You always believed in Hashem and you kept...
Pardon?
You always believed in Hashem or you kept your emunah?
Of course I did. I go to shul every day now. Every morning. I prepare to the shul.
Every day you go to shul?
Every day.
It's incredible.
Every day in the morning I go to shul. On Shabbos I go to Hashkama service. Except one Shabbos in a month. I go to the men's shul. Would you like a cup of coffee now?
Chaim, I just want to thank you. This has been absolutely unbelievable, Chaim. Chaim, I am so incredibly grateful to you. I'm very, very grateful.
Oh, no.
There are no words. There are really no words. I am not only as a fellow dentist, but Chaim, you are a hero.
Yeah.
You are unique in this world.
Well, fortunately, the British government thinks I'm a hero as well, because I got 2 medals. One of them got...
Let's have a look. Her Majesty the Queen is pleased to confer the British Empire Medal Civil Division upon Dr. Harry Chaim Olmer.
He's the medal. That's one medal. It was this year I was given an MBE.
An MBE?
Yeah.
This is magnificent. You know, Chaim, you so deserve it. You so deserve this.
Yeah.
This, you really are. It's magnificent. And Chaim, did you meet the Queen?
Not the Queen. Princess Anne.
Princess Anne.
Yes.
But have you been to the royal? Have you been to Buckingham Palace?
No, I didn't. I went to the castle, Windsor Castle.
Sure.
Windsor Castle, and Princess Anne was very, very nice. I've got a video somewhere of it after when she bent down towards me. She asked me because she knew how old I was when my hearing aids. She went down and she wanted to know where I still got taught because of given for Holocaust survivors, for Holocaust education. And she asked me, do you still go to schools? And I said, I do. January I went to school in Jacobs, 400 students. I'm going 2 weeks, and 21st of this month I was going to get to one in Ealing as well. And now in that school as well. And then I talked to schools as well, online as well, when it was the pandemic. And then the students who listened to me online, they said, I would like them to come speak to us personally. So I told them, come get in touch with me in April after I come back from the March of the Living. I'll come and speak to the students.
And you allow them to ask questions.
Of course I do. Of course.
It's very important.
Yes.
Chaim, it's amazing. And Chaim, if we could just look at this one picture again of your mother, and
Yeah, all right.
this is such a magnificent picture of this is your mother and your sister. No, this is wonderful.
Yes. All right.
That this picture survived.
This is my graduation picture.
And this is your wedding.
This is my wedding, yes.
And Cain and Hora, here's your family. What a beautiful family.
Yes.
So Chaim, you should only have mazel bracha.
Because I use it. Well, this is my no, this, I think this is my grandson.
Oh, it's wonderful, Chaim.
And this is my granddaughter. And this is my oldest grandson, Danny. And she's in Israel at the moment. And this is one of the pictures of us. And this is my grandson and my son as well, and daughter. And this is another grandson. He's the youngest grandson. He is 90. He's at Cambridge University now. And she is.
Chaim, this is so special.
You don't have because, oh, this is my wife with myself. They were on. It was in Eilat, I think. I think in Eilat.
Chaim, it's wonderful. Well, Chaim, you should Admeve stream till 120 in good health and mazel and bracha.
Thank you very much.
And I just want to thank you. I'm so grateful. And Chaim, if we could just see, Chaim, is it possible these wonderful pictures as well?
I'll show you something I see this. Cross's wife, Dr. Cross's wife, she did the drawing for.
Oh, that's wonderful.
This is
And this is from the
Glasgow University.
And here's all from Yad Vashem.
Yeah.
And the British tribute to the Queen from the Jewish National Front.
Yes, yeah. All those unfortunately. I'm the only one here who's still alive. No, he's Ben Helfgott. He's still alive, but he can't talk, unfortunately.
Were you in touch with Ben? You were in touch with him, with Ben?
Ben Helfgott.
Yeah.
But not much, not Ben. He can't talk. But Asa, speak to Asa, his wife. And but he, Balsam, that's I can remember his name. He was a putzboy from Miller, and that's Balsam. That's Balsam. But that is never gone, all gone.
And where was this picture taken?
It was taken in Israel. Maybe marching, so I can't remember what but yeah. Ik heb Skarzisko Kamienna, Plaszów, Buchenwald, Schlieben, they've all the camps there. That was in Israel. Can't remember what year, what was.
And this is so nice from the Jewish National Fund, that the Royal Forest, 12 trees have been planted in the name of Chaim and your wife Olmer. British jury's tribute to the of loyalty and affection to Her Majesty the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh to mark their silver wedding anniversary.
Yeah, and this is my oldest son. He's a lawyer. My younger son is a lawyer as well. And this is my daughter, Julia. And this
This is from the Mill Hill Synagogue.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is so special. Sure. And this is a picture.
From other years, yeah.
And this is all from the bus. This is last year.
Yes, yes, it just wasn't over here.
And these are all people that have written to you.
Yeah.
Sure. Just one message. Thank you so much for letting us be with you at Balzac to commemorate your family and sharing your story from Ahava.
I've got hundreds of those. Yeah.
This is so special.
And this is my degree. It's in Latin. I've got a congratulations actually for the Glasgow University as well. I showed you.
And here, this is Dentist of the Year.
Yes, I think.
Oh, that's wonderful.
House. I found this one.
In University of Glasgow, second class certificate of merit, class of orthodontics, sure, in 1951.
Yeah.
And Chaim, can I ask, this picture that you have, this very special picture that you have here of your sister, how did this picture survive? Chaim, how did this picture survive of your sister?
It was just
But how did the picture survive?
The same way. This obviously it was done before the war.
Yeah.
So my cousin, she put ahead this picture as well.
She had the picture, and that's why it survived.
Yeah.
These are some more pictures of your wonderful family.
The University of Glasgow sent me congratulations.
This is from the 2nd of February this year, 2023. Dear Mr. Olmer, I'm writing to congratulate you on receiving the honor of the MBE in the 2023 New Year Honors List for your services to Holocaust education. I wanted to congratulate you personally on this terrific and well-deserved achievement. We are very proud of the impact members of our alumni community make on their chosen fields. We are pleased to include a list of graduates who have received honors of the University of Glasgow website. Your notice will be read. Mr. Chaim Olmer, MEM, BDS 1953, appointed MBE for the services of Holocaust education. This is wonderful.
Yeah, and this is for the BDA as well for this year.
British Dental Association, and also 9th of January 2023, I'm writing on behalf of the members, officers and staff of the British Dental Association to offer our wholehearted congratulations on your recent awards in the New Year's Honours List. You have made a tremendous contribution to the work of Holocaust Educational Trust and its work to educate young people from every background about the Holocaust and the important lessons to be learned for today. We, as your professional colleagues, are heartened to see that your services have been recognized in such a public and highly profile way and awarded an MBE. Please accept our sincere congratulations and the very best. Martin Woodrow, Chief Executive. Chaim, this is really, really wonderful, and it's so deserving.
Yeah, well, those two, particularly Glasgow and the PDA, I'm very proud of today.
And can I ask you, because she's very nice, Kate, have you met with Kate?
Who?
Kate. Princess Kate?
Princess Anne.
And Kate, have you ever met with Kate?
Princess Kent.
Kate. Kate.
Kate?
Yeah. You've met with her as well?
Princess Kate. Who's Princess Kate?
She's going to be the future queen one day.
Oh no, that I met. I've got a picture of her as well.
she's wonderful.
She's very nice as well. Very nice. Kate. Is it Kate?
Chaim, this is amazing. You have from the.
You want to picture like this to Glasgow on Glasgow University.
Okay. We'll just read this one first from the Holocaust Educational Trust. This is dated the 6th of January of this year, 2023. Dear Harry, many congratulations on your award as the MBE in His Majesty the King's New Year Honours List. Over many years you have touched the lives of thousands of people across the country and all over the world. Your dedication is unstinting, and I am so delighted that you have been recognized in this way. Whether though speaking in schools or the countless of interviews you have given, you have shone the spotlight on your shared cause of Holocaust education and remembrance, and we are so grateful to you. Thank you for everything you have done. Your determination and perseverance are an inspiration to us all. From all of us at the Holocaust Educational Trust, a hearty Mazel Tov on an honor richly deserved. This is from Karen Pollock, CBE, from the Holocaust Educational Trust. And it is so true, Harry, you are really amazing. You've given me this interview. I've come from Israel. I would go anywhere in the world to meet you, and I am so grateful to you. And Harry, you should just have Mazel Brocha at Mayvestrim in 120 good health, and just have nachas from your dear family, and continue. You are really an inspiration, and you are incredible, and you should just be well and have all of Hashem's blessings. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you as well.
Thank you, Harry.
Would you like a cup of coffee now? I'm sure you deserve one.
So Harry, here we have a picture of your mother and your sister, and these are the only pictures you have.
I've got another picture of my older sister.
And in this picture,
Golda. That's her name. What's her name?
And this picture, your mother is in the picture.
Yes, it's drawn a picture I've got of my mother.
And whose wedding was this?
It was near Krakow, in Sobniki. Near Krakow.
So Harry, this is a picture of your older sister Golda.
This is Golda, yes.
And did she survive the war?
No, she's not. She was murdered in Belzec. And I'm going on the march for the living again and meet it after Pesach as well. And I've been going to the march of the living like for Kiva Orvis, because most of her family have been destroyed, been murdered there. So I go, but she did not survive the war. But my younger sister, she survived the war.
This is another picture of Golda with your mother.
That's right.
And above is a picture of a wedding with your mother.
No, this was there in Golda's hand. The same picture there. We had enlarged in 1953. Because the Hungarians were still free actually in Poland, but when the war started, the Hungarian government looked after them. So she got married to Latzi, and her name was Eiferman, and she went back to Hungary, and she lived normally in Budapest with her husband, and in 1944 of course was taken to Auschwitz, but she survived and he survived as well. That's how I got the pictures. I wouldn't have had the pictures of my mother at all.
And how did you get the pictures?
Because I went back to Israel in 1953, and she was already in Israel by then.
And she had kept the picture.
She had pictures, yes.
And these are the only picture of your mother and
This is the
your
only
sister.
picture of my mother I have got, yes. Got no picture of my father at all.
And your younger sister?
Sarah. But she's my younger sister, she's my wife, of course, now. And that's my wife. Oh no, she's my sister, sorry. That's my sister.